availability of resources all the time whenever they are going to access it at any time. What does the dynamic infrastructure refers to is, it is a collection of data. As you know, the main purpose behind having a cloud service is anything cannot be virtualized, like hardware cannot be virtualized, and certain control over the visibility, how much are handled by the assets of cloud service provider. These are the assets of the cloud service providers. Below the top management, he can access some layers of the data or some layers of the database. Hello students, welcome to the Cloud Computing and Big Data Analytics class. I'm Dr. Soumyashri from Department of Computer Science, Vidhyaashram College. In the previous session, we stopped our class or session till the cloud service and other models and other terminologies that are usually used in cloud computing. Is it not? Today, I'll move on to the next concept, that is creating dynamic infrastructure in cloud. How do you create, or what are the things or aspects we need to take care of in case of establishing or having an infrastructure for cloud service? For example, if you are starting a new cloud service, if you are planning to become a cloud provider, what are the necessary things you need to consider for having a cloud infrastructure? The basic thing that you need to remember if you want to start a cloud service is, you need to have a dynamic infrastructure. Dynamic is where it changes according to the requirement, is it not? If it doesn't change, you'll call it as static. Dynamic is where it goes on changing according to the necessity or according to the various conditions. Correct? You need to have the dynamic infrastructure. Today, let's have a look at how does the infrastructure of the cloud gets dynamic and what are the different management criteria we need to consider if you want to make a cloud service dynamic one. Okay, let's have about this concept. Okay, what does the dynamic infrastructure refers to is, it is a collection of data. As you know, the main purpose behind having a cloud service is collection of data or providing a platform to store and manipulate the data, is it not? So dynamic infrastructure refers to collection of data center resources. What are the resources that can be collected is computing resources, what you need to compute, networking resources, and mainly storage. Computing resource, networking resource, and storage resources, maybe memory or database, anything. So storage related collection of data that can automatically provision. This is the main thing. It has to automatically provide dynamicity or dynamic character to a cloud service. If you don't have elasticity or provision to adjust itself as workload demands, the cloud will not be in much demand. It must be scalable. That means it must be able to expand its functionality or its capability based on workload demand. How much operable the cloud service will be by the clients. How much the clients are going to access it. If the client are accessing more times your cloud service, the functionality of the cloud must change according to that workload. If you have more workload, more accessibility, or clients are accessing more times than usual, you need to adjust to that workload changes. If there is a decrease in workload, or if the workload of or accessing of clients become lesser, accessing times, how much time they access the cloud, it becomes less, the workload must become less, and the management must adjust the cloud services, the cloud environment according to the changes. So where you can adjust the workload as well as the memory, networking and all the assets or the resources. So everything must be managed according to the requirement of the client or as the workload changes. So this is where dynamic property of the cloud plays a very vital role to give a quality service to the clients by the vendors. What are the things that needs to be considered if the cloud has to be dynamic in nature? We have various management skills, management parameters, which needs to be considered if the cloud needs to be dynamic. First thing is, it has to have a service management, asset management. I've said already about the asset. Apart from that, virtualization and consolidation of the data, information infrastructure, how do you collect the information and how do you store that information in the cloud, energy efficiency, how much efficiently you are using the energy as well as you are preserving the energy according to the workload. Then security, you need to increase the security if workload increases. You can maintain with the medium level of security or normal security if the workload is normal, like that. Then resilience. So coming back to the same state from higher workload to normal or from lesser workload to normal, the cloud must be able to come to the same state. Resilience is coming to the same state after having any changes. Like you have your bands, hair bands or bands. If they expand, if you expand the hair band, it will expand how much you try to expand it. Up to certain level, it will extend, isn't it? Once you leave your fingers from the band, it will come to the same size, original size, is it not? This is called as resilience, coming back to the same state before going to any changes. So that is where the infrastructure of the service goes dynamically changing. Okay. Now let's have a look at each of this in detail. First thing is about the service management. Okay. So service management is where we have discussed about the service models like SaaS, PaaS and IaaS. So these services must be managed according to the workload. How much workload you have, according to that, the service must be changed. You cannot expect same service for 1000 clients as well as for 700 clients or for 200 clients. If 200 client service needed by 200 clients will be different from that of service expected by 1000 clients, is it not? You need to have more dynamic property when you have more visit by the more number of clients, is it not? So service management must be there in business and IT firms. If you are having a client as business and IT organization as your client, you need to have the visibility of the services where the business or the organization can have better visibility to your service or the data they have accessed, automation of updates and upgradations to the softwares or platforms or any hardware components. Then control over the components is also a main thing. Control over flow of the data or flow of the software or anything, any flow from cloud to the client must be in a controlled manner. However, maybe the number of clients or how much time one single client may access the cloud. The properties or the management of the service in all the types must change dynamically according to the number of clients as well as number of visits by the clients according to that. So cloud dynamic infrastructure takes care of these things in a service management. Okay, this type of special facility or functionality is provided only to the cloud IT services by the provider. So IT technology related service will be usually dynamic. Whether you are opting for a new software or opting for a new hardware or opting for some other application software, it will be dynamically provided by the service providers. Here, this facility includes, like as I have explained, visibility, having certain amount of visibility to all the sorts of data and certain control over the visibility, how much a client can view, how much data can be accessible by a particular client. So that must be handled by the dynamic infrastructure. Along with that, automation, how much upgradation and updating of the softwares and other platforms can be carried out. And along with that, controlling the first class IT services. If you are having an organization as the client, the service must be very much topper. Otherwise, you will incur a loss if the organization changes the vendor, is it not? If it is an individual, you can somewhat compromise with the service. You can compromise with the service or you can delay for certain seconds or certain time duration. So he'll get adjusted to that. But for an organization, data transferring and other things are very much vital for each transaction. So you have to give a first class or high level IT service for the clients according to their needs. So we need a management of the service. How do you manage the service? According to the workload in the cloud. Next we have asset management. Asset I have said as data or components, anything that loss of that incurs a loss to the business also, which is called as an asset. Here we have assets, server or either a platform or services or hardware. All these are assets or data, services. So this can be given or handled by the assets of cloud service provider. These are the assets of the cloud service providers. This asset management must be done by again the cloud dynamic infrastructure. It has to change again the management of asset according to the workload. How much data is accessed, how much hardware component is accessed, or how much platform is accessed or platform is used by the clients. According to that, management strategies must also change or management policies must also change. As said in the last session, policies, standards and procedures. So policies must change according to the changing needs or workload of the client. Okay. When you have a look at the asset management, the assets or the property involved in providing cloud service must be managed by the dynamic infrastructure. They have to dynamically handle all these assets. They are getting managed in such a way. How they are getting managed is their value gets maximized. Their usage and their value, whether it is a hardware or a platform or a software or any service or a server, its value must get maximized. How much they are going to access a server, the accessing of the data, downloading speed and everything must be in the same condition and it must not deteriorate. If it gets decreased, the quality of accessing of the data or downloading speed if get decreased, the client may be disappointed with your service. To maintain the service, you have to take care of or you have to manage the asset. So this can be done by the dynamic infrastructure, that is changing the management according to the service, according to the workload. So this is about asset management. Next is how does the dynamic infrastructure handles virtualization as well as consolidation, creating in virtual machines as well as consolidation in the data. Okay, so we have the virtualization concept where virtualization decreases the cost. Okay, here effective utilization must be done for the platform as well as for the service. Anything cannot be virtualized, like hardware cannot be virtualized. You need to have the actual part of hardware or actual accessing of the hardware. You can have the platform as virtualized, virtual platform, like you can have a virtual studio, Visual Studio, virtual copy of the Visual Studio or virtual copy of the PHP or JSP provider or software. You can have the virtual thing. In such a case, in virtualization, the cloud dynamic infrastructure must reduce the operating cost according to the change of the need by the client for accessing the platform or the service. The asset virtualization and consolidation must also be handled by the dynamic infrastructure, because the service provider doesn't know whether demand is there, workload is increasing or decreasing. So you can't have a static service to any number of clients or any time. What you will do, what you can do is you can dynamically change the service or mode of service that a cloud is going to provide. Okay, so which makes the cloud to have effective utilization of the platform as well as the service. With the help of virtualization, you can decrease the operating cost, whereas you can increase the utilization of the resources in the cloud. Okay, in the diagram, it is stated that they are getting utilized and more efficiently. We are using the services and the platform more efficiently when you have the dynamic infrastructure or dynamic service. Okay, along with that, it is identifying or indicating that when you have dynamic infrastructure or dynamic services, you can have the operating cost decreased when you compare to the static kind of service. For that purpose also you need the dynamic infrastructure. Next we have information infrastructure, that is about the data that you are going to access. So information will be there which can be accessed by business firms. So they are having the properties like compliance according to the requirement, availability, data must be available all the time for the authorized client, retention of the necessary data, even though the retention of the state of any data, it must be even though the client changes the data in his local machine, the data must be in the same state, it must have the same state, retain the same state, however the client changes the data. And it must provide the security. The cloud infrastructure or the dynamic infrastructure must provide the security to the data accessed by the business firms or organizations. You need to have the data or have the security of the data. So it helps the business organization to achieve the following points, that is information compliance, compliance with other informations, availability of resources all the time whenever they are going to access it. At any time, the client can access the data. Resources retention, even though they are changing the state of the data and the resources they are accessing, it must remain in the same state for other users. It must not change with the other clients. If you are having a copy C1, C2, C3 for 3 clients or 3 persons, P1, P2, P3 of same copy or same say platform, same platform is used by 3 clients, 3 persons with 3 copies using the virtualization. Is there any change in C1 copy, first copy, it must not change the execution or any operation of the other copies. The resources retention and security objectives. Again, the same thing comes to the same point. Whatever you do, the last thing you need to take care of is security of the data. Data must be secure. Next comes is the energy efficiency. The energy efficiency, IT infrastructure must have energy efficient accessibility of the data to the cloud. It must not use too much of network speed to access a data from a cloud. Then it will not be a better service to the client. However, the client access the data, how much time he may access the data, it must use the network as well as the time duration with the minimum time duration as well as minimum network speed. It must not utilize all the speed of the network so that other works gets affected. It must take only optimized speed of network as well as optimized time duration for the accessibility of the data. Along with that, you have to ensure that it will not damage or accessing of the data or any operation must not damage or affect any other thing. That means the speed and other parameters must be efficiently used so that it will not affect the other works of the organization or other clients. It must not disturb other clients. However, you may access the network speed, but it must not affect with other operations of the organization or other clients accessing. Suppose, as I have said in the same example, I am having a platform where 3 copies of the same platform are created, which are used by 3 clients. If P1 is accessing more number of times the same copy or hold on the same copy for more time, it must not use more number of network speed or memory or any other parameter which can affect the operation of these copies. There must be energy efficiency services that must be provided by a cloud. However, the workload changes. Okay. Next comes is the parameter of security. How does the security will be provided by the cloud dynamic infrastructure? Again, we have the infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, and software as a service. So, we have 3 types of service. The cloud dynamic infrastructure must manage the risk. It has to access or it has to predict the possible risk that can happen to a cloud, and it must avoid and customize the governance. How much the control must be there, how the data can be accessed by what kind of client. If the client is a top management, he can access any layer of the data or any layer of the database he can access. Suppose if he is a manager, below the top management, he can access some layers of the data or some layers of the database. which will ensure the security to the data. The employee who is in primary level in the organization must not be able to access all the layers of the data in the database, which will give the chance to hack a data in the or get access to a data which is not supposed to be accessed by that employee. So all these things must be taken care by cloud dynamic infrastructure or dynamic infrastructure of the cloud, which ensures the security of the data. It is responsible for risk management. It has to analyze the risk and try to avoid, or if anything happens, it must recover all the data and all the services. Apart from that, it has to customize the governance. Governance is where how much data or how the service must be rendered to what level of employees or what level of clients, how much data must be accessible. Where risk management refers to the risk involved in the services provided by the vendors or cloud service providers, where customization of the governance implies that features of the governing body or admin body can be changed, but it depends on provider's wish. How much data must be accessed will be decided by the providers only, based on what level of client he is, whether he is from the top management in an organization, or he is from the middle management or managers or team leaders or normal developers, testers, analyzers, planning team. What kind of data must be accessed by which group of employees or which group of clients or which client will be customized by the service provider using the dynamic infrastructure quality. Okay. Next is the concept that we are going to cover is the cloud adoption. What is the concept of cloud adoption? Next concept that we can learn is about cloud adoption. What is cloud adoption is, suppose if you are having an enterprise or an organization, what are the things or what are the policies that can lead you to take the decision that you can adopt the cloud service along with the local storage, or you can drop the local storage and you can start completely with the cloud service? What are the benefits and what are the things that needs to be taken care when you are deciding to switch your service from local to the cloud? So all these things can be explained in a concept known as cloud adoption. So adopting to the cloud service by the organization. Okay. Here, cloud adoption can be termed as a strategy used by the enterprises or organization to improve the scalability of the internet-based database. Database will be local without a cloud. If they are planning to have internet-based database, what is the thing they need to consider to have a cloud service? It needs to take care of the capabilities of a particular cloud, which can reduce the cost as well as the risk on the data they are going to operate. How much security is needed? What are the different things they are going to consider for cloud adoption? Okay. What is the benefit of having this strategy is ability to store privileged data. You can have privilege on what kind of data must be stored in cloud, or what kind of data must be stored in private cloud. If you are having hybrid cloud, you can have both private as well as public cloud. What you have to have the strategy is whether you are going to store entire data into the cloud or only part of data, non-critical data that can be stored in cloud. If it is non-critical data, whether you are going to store that non-critical data in public cloud or private cloud or community cloud or hybrid cloud. What type of cloud you are going to use to store your data? Or if you are planning to store or have the internet-based database, all the entire data of the organization will be stored in cloud. What type of security you need? How you are going to store, whether in a private cloud or community cloud or hybrid cloud. If you are storing all the critical and non-critical data, you cannot obviously go for public cloud, isn't it? You can either choose the hybrid cloud or community cloud or private cloud. Okay. How much data can be stored in private cloud while having technological resource from the public cloud? You can have the hardware resource or software as a service from public cloud and software as a service from software and hardware as a service, that is IaaS and SaaS as from the public cloud and PaaS from the private cloud. You can have the services like that also, relying on the private data. How much data you are storing in private cloud and how it must be accessed. So all these things can be taken care while you are trying to adopt for the cloud service. Okay. Who needs the cloud adoption? Who are the organizations or what kind of organizations need to have the cloud services? You can have variety of industries that can have more benefits from adopting to cloud, including a service like healthcare or marketing and advertising, retail industry, finance industry or education. Education are some of the fields that can benefit from cloud service. How they get benefited from cloud services? When you look into the healthcare industry, you can have digital and social consumer behaviors. You can check on the behaviors, data history or the history of a patient or the medications that the patient has taken would be stored or would be stored in cloud and can be accessed from cloud. And the need for secure and accessible electronic health records. Maintaining the health records is the main issue in a healthcare industry. If you are having chain of hospitals all over the country, you cannot have a single server for all the patients in the hospitals, chain of hospitals, isn't it? If you have 10 branches of the same hospital, suppose you have, take the example of Apollo Hospital or any hospital which is spread all over the country, it can have more number of branches. Each branch can have the visit of thousands of patients, is it not? Like maybe an inpatient or outpatient, any kind of patient. You can have thousands and lakhs of patients pouring into or visiting your hospital, and you need to store all the data related to each of the patient. You can't say that I don't have enough memory to store the details of a patient. So you need to have all the data. There is no norms that you can have only the name of the patient, the medications given. You can have the reports of scanning, or you can have the reports of X-ray, or you can have the reports of some MRI, or you can have the reports from outside testing. You can have various resources or various records which consumes huge amount of data. As you know, images, videos takes more memory space when compared to the static data of text and numbers, is it not? So, it can have accessible electronic health records which can be stored in a cloud where hospitals, clinics and other medical organizations can have document storage. They can store the document, marketing, they can market the hospitals or the medical facilities provided by them in any social medias which are using the cloud service. And human resources. It can even use the human resource data to be stored, like employees, doctors, nurses, and other employee information can also be stored in the cloud. Even they can do the marketing, or if you are having a pharmaceutical company, you can have the marketing of the various medicines or medical equipments through the cloud service. Then if you take care of or take the field of marketing and advertising, it uses the concept of social media. As you know about social media, which is having quick creation and publishing of customer relevant content. As you can know, today even the medicine or pharmaceutical industry has become online. You can order the medicines online and you can purchase it, and you can maintain the record with the applications which are having these online medicine providing facility, medication providing facility. They need to store the data. They need to store the reports of the patients for providing the service. Today even the consultation is becoming online. Then also you have to store the data. Physically we're not going to hospital, but I am accessing to a doctor, or I'm consulting a doctor through online suggestions or live online live interaction. In such a case also, they have to have all the data stored. In that case also, marketing advertisement, they can have advertisement of the products they are having, like when you observe in Twitter or Facebook or any social media, you can have the advertisement of various products. If you have a look at one product, once you come into the social media, you can have similar products displayed on your screen, is it not? So the cloud service can be used by the advertising agencies, where hybrid cloud adoption strategies are used to deliver client messages to their local and worldwide audiences. Suppose they need to have the review of a product. That review can be published in a social media, so that it will again be a kind of advertisement. If you observe in any social media, you can have not only the static advertisement, you can view some certain videos which can promote a particular product. Again, that is also an advertisement, is it not? So again, marketing and advertisement agency can use this cloud service to promote all these concepts. Next comes is the retail field. In retail field, e-commerce is the main thing which requires an internet strategy. How do you promote your product in the internet? With the help of cloud adoption, internet-based retail is able to effectively market between the customers and save the product data for less money. Like you have the e-commerce sites, what they will do, they'll use the cloud service to have the description of all the available products, and they can perform this retail transaction with the clients by having a cloud service. They need not to store any data. If you take any Amazon or any e-commerce site, what they will do, they'll not be having their own server. Instead, they'll be having all their data in the cloud, and client can easily access the cloud when compared to the local server. If the local server of an e-commerce site is residing in US or somewhere else, the customer sitting in India can access to the data in certain seconds with the local server. The accessing time will get decreased if it is stored in cloud. So the client can have accessing time very much less when compared to the local server, where retail business can have benefit of cloud adoption when compared to storing the data in local servers or local databases. When it comes to the field of finance, okay, efficient expense management, managing the expense in an organization, managing the human resource details or any other human resource related operations, communication with the customers or clients of the organization are the needs of the finance, where it can have the benefit of cloud services so that they need not to have all the reports to be stored in a local server. Instead, they can use the cloud service or the private cloud to store all those data, or community cloud to communicate the financial reports or communications related to finance through the cloud only. If they are having community cloud where different branches of the organization are interconnected through the cloud, they can do their transactions or expense management or human resource management. All those things can be done using the cloud itself, is it not? If they are having an online meeting with some of the employees in some other branch, they can communicate the data from cloud itself instead of accessing from a local server. Both the sender and the receiver, or both the persons sitting in a meeting, can access the cloud at the same time, which saves the time as well as the storage resources. Next comes is the education. Education is the new opportunity in a world. So internet-based education is more popular than ever. You can have the example here only. The internet-based education opportunities. What does the cloud will have the benefit of for the education is, the cloud allows universities or any private institution and public schools to provide learning contents over the cloud, or homeworks or assignments over the cloud, or even grading system can be done online. If you are having a test or if you are having an internal assessment exam, it can be done through cloud. What I'll do, I'll load the question paper to the cloud. You can access the question paper from the cloud and answer it, and you can store it back to the cloud, and I can evaluate and save the scoring or the grading in the cloud itself. So everything can be done. I can upload an e-content to the cloud, or I can upload the homework or assignments to the cloud so that you can access, you can prepare the assignments, you can access the notes and refer to it. So all the tasks can be done in the cloud itself, which saves lots of memory when compared to the local data or database or server that we are going to use if there is no cloud service. Okay, so this is more beneficial for the education when compared to other fields. How does it gets benefited? Cloud adoption is benefiting to what kind of organization? Whether it is large companies, MNCs, or small or middle-sized companies, or startup companies. What does the suggestion says is, it can benefit all kind of companies. Whatever may be the size of the company, it can benefit to any size of companies. How does large companies gets benefited is, the larger companies, how much the organization is, the investment needed for IT will also increase. If you have thousands of employees, you need to have thousands of systems to be accessible by all the employees. Is it not? You need to have surplus systems to access by the employees. So this enterprise cloud adoption gives the savings of the investment to the large companies by having improved efficiency. You can access the data in very much less time by the cloud, eliminating the need for a large security and maintenance staff. You need not to have too much staff to secure and maintain the data in your organization, which lowers the cost of server space. You can have minimum number of space for critical data, and you can manage all the non-critical data by storing and managing it in the cloud itself. Okay. When it comes to the small and the middle-sized companies or organizations, if there is increase in the staff or client or projects, they have to invest more on the equipments, more on the server, more on the systems, is it not? But it may not be profitable, or it may not incur much profit. If you invest, the profit came from a business. If you divert it to IT infrastructure, it will be a loss for the organization. What it can do, mid-size organization can have their infrastructure established in cloud. It will save you the profits that are came from a business. So you can have more benefits or more profit from a business. So engaging in cloud computing allows more efficient and cost-effective scalability for your organization. Suppose if today your organization is operating with 100 employees and some 30 or 20 or 30 clients, it will not be the same situation after 2 years. Or you may have sudden increase in number of clients. At that time, you have to increase the number of employees also, and you have to increase the investment needed for IT infrastructure, which may not be much profitable. Instead of that, what the mid-sized organization can do is, they can have cost-effective cloud service, which will save them a lot amount of money when compared to purchasing all the equipments like server and other database softwares. Instead of purchasing all those things or spending money on all those things, you can have all those service from the cloud itself, okay? Which will give you more profit in your organization. When it comes to the startups and entrepreneurs of startups, the cloud service is the most beneficial for startups when compared to the mid-sized or large companies. So choosing the cloud instead of an expensive IT infrastructure will reduce the startup investment to a organization. You can have an organization with less investment, okay? And you can save the cost for needed for purchasing new versions of the software or licensed versions of the software. You can save all those money, okay? Software as a service or SaaS vendors can offer a monthly subscription fee model. They know about the requirements of the client. So they have the subscription model where you can subscribe to a particular software, version of the software or application with a minimum duration, like 1 month or 2 months or 3 months or 1 year, like that, according to the requirement of the client, according to the requirement of the organization. Software can be accessed by having a subscription, okay? This is how any kind of organization can benefit from adopting to a cloud service, okay? How does this cloud adoption works? What does the thing that can be done, or what are the critical steps that need to take care if you are going for a cloud adoption is, first thing is assessment. Before selecting any cloud, the organization must assess. The decision makers must assess the opportunities. What are the opportunities and challenges of employing or adopting a cloud service in their business? How much I'll get benefited if I go for a cloud service? So assessment must be done. Whatever you do, what are the important tasks you do, or any decision if you take in a business, what must be the main thing is, first, the assessment is the main step that needs to be taken care, is it not? So assessment must be done researching the popular vendors. If you are adopting for a SaaS, what are the popular vendors available for the SaaS? What are the benefits of having a particular vendor? What are the disadvantages or drawbacks in their service? Or if you go for another vendor, what are the benefits and disadvantages or benefits and loss if you adopt for a particular vendor must also be assessed. And what is the kind of vendor we need for our industry, that also must be assessed. Okay, the technology teams or the IT experts must look into the data reports of the service by a particular vendor before selecting a particular one. Past service, past experience of other organizations, how they got benefited from a particular vendor. All those assessment must be done by the organization before adopting to a particular cloud. Then after assessment, next step is planning. Okay. Once assessment is finished, they must plan their specific cloud strategy. That means what kind of cloud we need, whether it is private, public, community or hybrid. Before that, what kind of service we need, whether it is IaaS, PaaS or SaaS, what kind of service we need and what type of cloud we need to have that service. So that must be done. They must plan their specific cloud strategy. They need to have their own cloud strategy. Along with that, they must choose the platforms and service that are well known to their industry. If they know about a software provided by a particular vendor, because application software are different for different vendors. Different vendors provide different kind of software. Before purchasing or subscribing to a particular service with a particular vendor, what must the organization or the team of organization must do is, they have to decide what kind of service must they need and from which vendor they have to have this service, which are known to their industry, according to their industry, and quick to market. They are having better service when compared to other vendors. They should also decide between a public, private or hybrid cloud. What kind of cloud you are going to choose. Anyhow, for purchasing anything, we make the planning. If you are purchasing to have a car, you don't rush to a showroom and book a car. Okay, we need that car. Before purchasing that car, or if you are trying to buy a bike, or if you are trying to buy a laptop, you are not rushing to the shop all at once and say that I need a laptop. What kind of laptop you need? I don't know anything. You just give me a laptop. Are you going to say that? You are not going to say that, is it not? If you are purchasing a bike, you will not just go to any random showrooms and say, I need a bike. What kind of bike I need? I don't know. I'll just need a bike. Are you going to say like that? You are not going to do that, is it not? What you will do? First, you will assess what kind of, how many kinds of bikes are there, what is their look, what is the mileage, how much fuel it takes, how much kilometers it can run, what is the comfortable level it can have. All those parameters you will assess, is it not? From assessing, you'll get on to the best bike according to your budget. What is the budget? In that budget, what kind of bike can come? All these assessments can be done, should be done, is it not? Even if you are purchasing a laptop. After assessing, you will plan. If you have not got permission from the parents to purchase a bike, you have to plan how do you convince your parents about purchasing a bike or a laptop. You have to first convince them, is it not? For that, you have to plan. Why do I need bike? What are the benefits of having the bike? How much money I can save or how much time I can save by purchasing a bike. All these things you will plan before convincing your parents, is it not? So, you will not rush to a showroom and purchase the bike as it is it not? So, after assessment, planning, proper planning must be done. Next is adoption. Once planning is finished, during the adoption phase, the IT leaders must develop risk mitigation strategies. Any cloud or any type of cloud service can have certain amount of risk. What are the different risks that can arise? And if there arises any risk, how you can solve it? So all those things must be taken care. You can have expert understanding of the servers, softwares and services they are going to have, and scalability of this strategy, changing according to the time. Next is optimization. By meeting regularly with their executive team who are providing the service, IT departments can discuss lessons learned in their cloud computing. First, they need to have the proper training and they have to optimize and improve the solutions for better service by the cloud. Okay. What are the considerations or aspects you need to consider for cloud is, you need to have secure interfaces and APIs. You need to have application programming interface which are updated and safe so that your data will be most secured. Then you need to prevent system vulnerabilities, like bugs in your program can allow the hackers to access your data. So you have to find out or track the system updates and identify the vulnerabilities in your program or that can happen to your data. Create training programs and disaster planning. How do you plan for training? And you need to have proper training for the employees to access the cloud and how to store the data. And disaster plans. If there are any natural calamities, natural disaster happening, how do you store your data or how do you secure your data? All the aspects must be taken care while you are adopting for a cloud. The companies must have a roadmap of cloud computing, how they have accessed and how they are going to store the data. All those things must have a roadmap that can help you to generally have a more secure data over the cloud. Okay, this is all about the dynamic infrastructure and cloud adoption. Okay, in the next session, we are going to learn about cloud infrastructure self-service. How does self-service can be carried out in a cloud infrastructure? Thank you.